Have you ever wondered if a fearful avoidant actually regrets leaving a relationship after they do? Well, there are some stark differences between a fearful avoidant leaving in the heat of a moment when they are triggered versus somebody who's actually really done. In today's video, I'm going to break down when a fearful avoidant actually regrets breaking up and what those major differences are and how to recognize some of these patterns in yourself if you are the fearful avoidant so you can prevent these painful cycles in relationships from recurring. One of the first things that you need to know is that fearful avoidant attachment styles, they really shift from feeling anxious to avoidant. And that shift can happen very quickly and very abruptly. And when the fearful avoidant themselves is in that space of feeling avoidant and feeling anxious, it feels like that is the entire relationship. It feels like that is their reality that they're experiencing. They sort of lose context for the middle ground. And the reason for this is because of how much trauma is often stored emotionally at the subconscious level of mind. So let's unpack that a little bit further. Your subconscious mind is like a big warehouse. It stores everything. It consolidates memories over time. Things shift a little bit over time, but as a general rule, you're really garnering a lot of emotional storage around things that deeply impacted you. So, if in childhood, for example, you had a lot of experiences of your trust being challenged or broken, or feeling not good enough, or feeling unloved, or whatever it might be, if you have a lot of experiences of that, your subconscious mind in that warehouse has many, many cabinets full of that feeling. And what this essentially means is that when you get triggered, this is what a trigger is. A trigger is that your subconscious mind is also a bit of an association making machine, and it's trying to use your past experiences to sort of navigate your present and future. And well, really your present. But what happens is when somebody, let's say in your adult life, makes you feel unloved, your subconscious mind goes, oh, what's this all about? What other experiences do we have of being unloved? And it sort of opens those filing cabinets in the warehouse, and all of those feelings of unloved pour out, right? And so the experience of a trigger is that something in your present moment now is reminding you of past. And your subconscious mind is opening up those stored associations. And the more associations you have there, the more strongly you're going to feel your experience. In other words, if you have a lot of experiences of things that made you feel avoidant, like you need to pull back, protect, push people away to stay safe, feeling hurt by other people, then when somebody makes you feel those things in your adult life, you go into that really avoidant mode because all of that emotion's online. And with strongly stored emotions, we have these innate coping mechanisms that we've developed. So if when you felt betrayed, you would push back and push people away. If a lot of betrayal comes up, you push people back a lot and push people away a lot. On the flip side, if when you felt a fear of abandonment, you would hold on tight because fearful avoidance in the moment, their emotions are so strong around things because there's so much stuff there in the warehouse to essentially feel when they're in this anxious experience, they think like this is the person. There's nobody else out there for me. Like I need this to work. When they're in their avoidance side, they're like, I never want to see this person again. I don't care. This is it. I don't want to deal with this person. And when those feelings come online, they're so strong. And something that I've seen fearful avoidance experience all the time, which I think is really hard for the fearful avoidant, which I know is really hard because I once was a fearful avoidant, is sometimes your experience is so real at the time that later on when you come out of that triggered mode, you're like, oh, maybe I don't feel all of that stuff. And when it comes to breakups specifically, I've generally seen this take place in two major ways. One way is when you're really triggered, you feel like, oh my goodness, I this person is the source of my pain. The reality is the storage is more of the source of your pain. Though people can absolutely be a big source of pain, it's generally like whatever's happening in front of you combined with all this storage is the source of the pain. And that person's kind of like the catalyst for the pain. But at the time, the subconscious, again, remember, it's an association making machine. So it's not like, oh, it's my own internal baggage that's the source of the pain. It's no, this person is bringing all this stuff up for me. And I need this person to get as far away from me as possible as a strategy to get away from all of this pain that I'm experiencing. And it's a really intense experience a lot of the time. And so you push somebody really far away because you're trying to keep yourself safe and protected. You're trying to get rid of all this pain that you're feeling. The mind doesn't realize like how much there is more to that pain at a deeper level, right? And that's the beautiful thing about like when we start to understand the subconscious mind is that all these things, like I know I used the word baggage a moment ago, like it is a good word in a way because it's stuff that you're carrying that isn't yours to carry. And it's stuff that you've been imprinted with because of your past traumatic experiences, generally, whether that's huge scale trauma or smaller scale trauma, but on a more consistent basis. That's not your fault, right? Like those are imprints that you had. If you feel unloved, betrayed, trapped, helpless, powerless, whatever fears are coming up, you were imprinted with those. They were put into your subconscious mind probably by circumstances you didn't really want to happen. And while they're not your fault, they're your responsibility to heal unless you want to keep feeling that way. And taking responsibility is one of the greatest freedoms you'll ever have because it allows you to like actually delete these things out and live a life without a lot of those fears having to come up so much, if at all. With that being said, how this relates to the breakup is remember I said there's two ways. Way number one is yes, when a fearful avoidant is so triggered, they may threaten to leave a relationship or break up with a relationship because they're just trying to get out of that pain. And they think if I push this person really, really, really far away, I won't have to hurt like this. And so the subconscious mind is just trying to protect from all of what's going on. And in that case, oftentimes a fearful avoidant, when they feel more calm after, does regret a breakup because they're going, wait, that's not what I actually wanted. That's what I was trying to do from this like survival mode when I didn't know how to deal with how much I was feeling. Then often we'll see fearful avoidants feel a lot of guilt, sometimes shame, and it can be really difficult to go through that experience. So that's one way. And in that way, yes, fearful avoidants definitely regret breaking up. I mean, sometimes there's like an actual incident where somebody did something terrible and then you push the person away and it was like the right thing. And I always said to fearful avoidants in my practice when I was working with so many is I would always say to people, it's never wrong to want to get rid of a person in your life if it's not working, right? Like we have a divine right to be able to say, okay, this isn't working. It's not healthy. It's not good. It's not working out. But what we really want to be mindful of as a fearful avoidant is that we're making that decision from a regulated place. So you want to know that you made that decision like when you woke up in the morning and nothing else was going on. And you want to know that you would have felt that way throughout the day. You don't want to make that decision at this peak moment of emotion because then it's other stuff driving the truth of that decision rather than your actual needs and decision and desire. And if your actual needs, if you're like, this really isn't working out, I don't feel good about it, and you feel that way the whole day without there being a fight or an argument or something that's spurring or sparking that emotion, then that's when you know it's your truth, right? It's not fear in the moment, it's truth. It's how you actually feel when you're not triggered. So it's a really important differentiator there. The second big reason fearful avoidants break up, and in this case, they sometimes regret and sometimes don't, but usually do regret a little bit later on, is that fearful avoidants are not good at communicating their needs, and they usually don't even realize they're not communicating their needs. Usually fearful avoidants only communicate their needs out of frustration. They usually never proactively communicate their needs in relationships unless they're very small things that they don't feel vulnerable about. What you'll often see is that a fearful avoidant will not communicate, and be kind of like in their anxious side earlier on in relationships. And so will often be people pleasing and sometimes self-violating their own boundaries and like really prioritizing that other person's needs over their own, essentially. And then there will be this buildup of their needs not being met. And then eventually they'll hit this tipping point and be like, this is not the right relationship. And generally when this happens, fearful avoidants will go cold, will pull away, will leave the relationship, and will often not even realize, maybe forever, if they've never worked on themselves or anything like that, or learned about attachment theory or had the chance to really develop like insight into some of these things. But sometimes they won't even realize that, hey, a big part of that might have been different had you communicated your needs. Had you just communicated your needs, you might have felt more considered. That person might have actually shown up really well. And this is like one of the biggest things I saw working with people is like how often FAs would think my needs will never be met, so why bother? And then they would start doing the work and sharing their needs with people, and it would transform their relationships in a really beautiful way. In this case, when we have this tipping point FA who has this sort of tipping point and the breakup seems to come out of the blue, sometimes we'll see the FA like regret the breakup later on if they have insight into like, oh, I didn't communicate my needs, or sometimes miss certain needs that were being met by a partner, even if it was just like baseline needs, like for connection or for fun or novelty, or things that maybe the FA wasn't communicating, like, hey, I need to feel supported and it looks like XYZ, or hey, I want us to take a turn paying for things, or whatever it is, like things they didn't share. But in that case, they'll just miss those baseline needs, but usually it's after 6 weeks or so. Usually it's not an immediate regret. I would say the timeline is generally about 4 to 6 weeks. First, the FA feels free because they feel free of this one-sided relationship that sometimes is really important if you are an FA to recognize you may have a certain amount of responsibility in that one-sided relationship if you weren't sharing your needs and communicating your boundaries. And the reason I say that is definitely not to blame the FA if you felt like you were in a one-sided relationship, but so that if you were in that situation, you have the room to grow through that, right? To not have to be in that position again, or to be in like relationship after relationship that feels that way when there's something you could do to actually change that potential outcome. And sometimes people will not meet your needs when you communicate them, right? But then at least you know you're in the wrong relationship because it's not two ways, right? So in that case, generally FAs will sometimes miss their ex, things like that at about the 4 to 6 week mark, sometimes a little earlier too, depending on a variety of different factors. But whether somebody misses somebody and whether somebody wants to rekindle and both parties are willing to show up and put in the work and facilitate change together are two very different things. I just want to say that if you're in a position where any fearful avoidant in your life, a friend, a family member, a romantic partner, you feel like the relationship is currently on the rocks, I have a course that you can check out and literally keep for free. It is a gift and it's called the How to Repair Any Relationship course. It starts off by vetting to make sure that this person is actually ready to repair with you and this relationship is worth reparation, so that at worst you're able to just work on the repairing the relationship to yourself if this person isn't ready to show up with you. But it also goes into exactly what different attachment styles need and relational dynamics need for actual healing and deep growth if there's been a history of resentment or frustration. And it's literally a gift. You get to claim it for free down below. I'll put the link there. I hope this makes sense. I hope this gives you some context and insight into things. And thank you so much for watching this channel. Thank you all for your amazing comments and shares and questions. And I see a lot of really cool stuff in here sometimes. So even like people supporting each other on here. So thank you. Please subscribe if you enjoy this content. And thank you for watching. And I'll see you in tomorrow's video.